My next guest has got a huge fight coming up here against Calvin Kattar, UFC Fight Night, September 7th. It is Kyle the Monster Nelson joining me here on the program. Kyle, how's it going?
It's going great. Training camp is awesome. We're finally getting, top 10 opponents. So everybody at the gym, including myself, so obviously very excited.
Yeah, how excited were you to get this fight? I mean, Kattar's a huge name in the division. You must have been thrilled to get him as an opponent.
Yeah, absolutely. I honestly wasn't expecting, a top 15 guy, for at least another fight or two. I thought maybe, win one more, maybe two, and then look at a top 15 guy. But the UFC offered Kattar, and, I'm not going to turn it down. And I think Kattar's style matches up well with mine. I think, he's got great boxing and stuff, but I think I can beat him in the standard department and everywhere else.
What do you think that says about the matchmaking? That the UFC must be pretty happy with you. You've been performing well in the cage, and here you are getting this huge opportunity. Aside from, obviously being excited to get him as an opponent, you got to be feeling good the promotion is even putting this fight together.
Yeah, absolutely. With a bit of a rough start to my UFC career, even though I started on a couple losses, I think the UFC was able to see, some of my potential, my skill set and stuff. And now that I've got everything dialed in, I think I'm starting to perform how the UFC likes, and that's why they're starting to push me up the rankings.
Has there been any changes in training or anything like that? I mean, you've won 3 in a row. You've got some really impressive victories. Has there been anything different, you think, or is it just that you're coming into your own at this point in your UFC career?
Definitely a bit of coming into my own, getting a little more mature as a fighter. Also, starting, like mainly with my fight camp in England, even though that was a loss. I think it was a little controversial, but that's when my fiance really started helping out with a lot of my nutrition and a lot of my day-to-day stuff. And since then, the weight cuts and even my energy and training has been a lot better. So I definitely think that's a big factor in my recent success.
You sort of talked about Kattar and the style he brings. Obviously, he's a striker, a great boxer. Why do you think so many fighters have had trouble with Kattar? I know he's coming into this off a loss, but why do you think he's been so difficult for fighters to solve as far as his UFC career?
Yeah, I mean, he's got, great takedown defense, which, Aljamain was able to find a way around that. But, he's fought guys like Josh Emmett. Like, he's fought a lot of great wrestlers and BJJ guys, and he's been able to, kind of stuff a lot of the takedowns. So I'm sure that's, slowed a lot of people down, because when you look at him in his boxing style, and he's kind of very upright, it looks like he might be easy to take down, but I think he kind of fools people with that and has great takedown defense. And then just his basics with, just his jab crosses, 1-2 straight down the line. He's, I believe he's like 5'11". He's not super long for the division, but I think he uses it well to then keep people at his range that he wants. And then I think that's hard for some people to find a way around that.
Yeah, definitely agree on all those things. It seemed like you got a lot of notice for this fight. I mean, even at the time of recording this, it's July 30th. We're talking about a fight on September 7th. Has there been any cross training, or has it been mainly at home base as far as your preparation for this fight?
Mainly just home base. Like you said, we got a lot of notice. We got this fight at least a month, maybe 2 months ago.
Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah.
We were originally booked for August, and then it got postponed, and now September 2nd. But yes, I mean, I've been able to, really take my time and really fuel really well for this training camp. But it's been, status quo, the same as my last few fights, training at House of Champions, my gym, Muskoka Martial Arts, and then Niagara Top Team, and then a little bit of jiu-jitsu at the Grappling Garden here in Hamilton.
Okay, cool. What about training partners who've been some of the guys you've had a chance to work with?
So yeah, same kind of thing. I'm always working pads with my head coach, Crew Lynn. Working a lot with Mike Malott. Here at House Champions, Grappling Garden, Niagara Top Team. Everyone at Niagara Top Team can cycle through train with a bunch of those guys like Romero and Aaron and all those guys. So and again, Cody. Can't pronounce his last name, but he's coming up, and he's always
Kovalchuk,
a great,
for Unified, right? Yeah,
he's always a great sparring partner, and Gabe Sagman. So it's I think we got a wealth of talent here in the GTA Niagara region, and I'm very fortunate that we all get to train together.
And I mentioned it there. Obviously, this is the biggest. I mean, I don't think there's any question. This is the biggest fight of your career as far as, who Calvin is and everything that he's accomplished in the UFC. Do you get the sense that, all your training partners, all your teams that you work with, they're all kind of coming together for you? Because I can imagine this is such a big opportunity that they want to make sure they've, supporting you in every option, especially for a big fight like this.
Yeah, absolutely. Calvin Kattar's, almost a household name, especially for, MMA fans, but even the casuals, have seen his fights with Max Holloway and Josh Emmett and stuff like that. So it's, it's a name that, as soon as you say it, people are like, oh, cool, that's awesome. Top 10 guy, big fight. And so, yeah, then, you get people that are, really willing to help out and go that extra mile.
And you mentioned having a lot of time, probably going to be a lot easier to cut the weight as well. But it seems like the last couple fights, like you've really found a perfect method to getting down to 145. I know your fiance is a big, well, the wife now, I should say, has been a big sort of help in all that too. Do you kind of look at, because I remember like a couple interviews ago, you're like, I'm going to probably say it lightweight, but featherweight seems to be working now. Is it just that you've kind of found a good system for you to kind of get the weight down?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was definitely a chore, earlier on in my UFC career and even in my MMA career. But I mean, against most of that, I was younger and it was just, it was easier. As I get a little bit older and I carry a little bit more muscle and stuff like that, we have to be a little bit more strategic about how we get down there. But yeah, I've definitely felt comfortable with the weight cuts and with the refuels on these last, 4 or 5 fights.
Your corner, I imagine Cruel Lynn, who also be in the cage with you for the fight.
So Cruel Lynn, my head striking coach, and then I'll have Adrian Woolley, my wrestling coach, and then my fiance will be right there as well in my corner.
That's right. Yeah, I know that's been working really well for you too, obviously with the win streak. How's this fight playing out? The one thing with Calvin Kattar, he's really tough to finish. Other than, obviously you had that fight with Arnold Allen. I think that was more of an injury, but you look at Max Holloway, it's, he wasn't able to finish him over 5 rounds. So do you maybe look at that a little bit differently in terms of the game plan or, just knowing how durable he is, I guess?
So kind of similar to my fight with Bill Algeo, where he hadn't really been finished. He had been, head kicked. I think it was Andre Feely head kicked him. Like some people hit him with some big shots and weren't able to put him away. So I'd gone into that fight, planning to, being ready to go the distance and not sit on too much power. But, I think I just hit a little bit differently than some of the other guys in the division. And was obviously able to finish Bill in that fight. I think we're going to see something similar with Kattar. Again, he's fought guys like Josh Emmett, who's one of the most powerful guys in the division. But you got to have power and you got to be able to find the right spot, whether it's the temple or the chin. So find those targets and having power, I think, is what I'm good at. So I'm going to go in more than prepared to go to war and go the distance. But I do think one of my shots is going to find a home in there. And we'll see probably a TKO. We'll see how hungry he is to get back after his last fight against Aljo. Maybe he's going to come out on fire and he's going to run into one early, or it's probably going to be a second round TKO.
And obviously you both have a lot of fights in your career. I think I could argue that, Calvin's probably taken more damage than you have, especially after that Max Holloway fight. I know that was a few fights ago, but that was pretty brutal, as far as the punishment he took. How much of an advantage is that for you as well, and that maybe you don't have as much wear and tear as he does?
Yeah. I think even statistically, that was like one of the most damaging.
It was, yeah.
As far as taking punches and stuff. So
yeah,
definitely not good for your, career and stuff. I definitely think he's taken more damage than me. I'm generally pretty good at being defensive, fighting out of my shell. So I think, that's going to wear on him. I believe he's 36, who's a few years older than me. I think all that's going to accumulate. I think we're still going to get the same Calvin Kattar, and he's still going to be, a very technical boxer and great durability and stuff. But I do expect I'm going to be, the younger, fresher, more durable fighter.
At the top of your division, it's not officially booked yet, but we're pretty certain it's going to be Ilia Topuria and Max Holloway. How do you look at that fight? Because the one interesting thing, obviously, Max Holloway's never been knocked out. Topuria hits like a truck. How do you see that title fight going?
I'm picking Holloway. Since I started watching Topuria fight, I thought Holloway would kind of be the perfect opponent to beat him. I thought Volkanovski too. I thought it was a little bit more of a toss-up because he's a little bit shorter and stockier, and he's going to stay in the pocket a little bit more too. But I thought just with the range and the boxing that Holloway has, again, same thing. If he moves his feet and stuff, I think he can outpoint him, and we'll probably see it go the distance. But yeah, pretty one-sided victory, I think, for Holloway.
Obviously, we talked about the implications of this fight with Kattar being a big name. He's ranked and all that. This has got to skyrocket you up as far as your career getting a win like this. Because again, we just saw, basically, if you want to do a little bit of MMA math, Aljamain Sterling, who granted was a former champion, beats Kattar. Now he's fighting arguably one of the number one contenders in the division. I imagine if you beat Kattar, you're going to be, very high up there as well. What do you think a win, especially a finish, would do for your career?
Yeah, definitely catapult me up there, and hopefully, get me one step closer, especially with a nice knockout, becoming one of those household names, especially in Canada, but hopefully worldwide. As far as like where we go from there, I haven't looked too much. After my last fight, I called out Nate Landwehr. Let's see, he was coming off a win. I was coming off a win. Neither of us are in the top 15. That was kind of, the guys I was looking at calling out. But now after this fight, I'm going to have to reevaluate, because it'd be maybe weird if I was in the top 10 and I'm calling out guys that are, out of the top 15. I'd still love that fight. I'd still love the Cub Swanson fight and stuff like that. But I'm sure the UFC will want me, maybe sticking around in the top 15 there. So we'll have to take a good look at the top 15 guys and see who's next.
You got a new contract after the fight in Vancouver, right? Or when did you? Because I know that was the thing where you were kind of waiting to see if they'd re-sign you. Was it after 289, or was it your last fight that you got the new contract?
I think I'm one fight into the.
You're one fight in the new contract. Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. Because I remember we talked a few fights ago, and you were like, "Oh, we're waiting to see what happens," and then they did end up bringing you back, which worked out great. How's fatherhood? I know you have other kids, but you have the newborn, obviously. Is it kind of going through the motions of when you had a newborn, a few years back? It's got to be very cool to have a newborn around.
Yeah, absolutely. It adds a different element to the whole, training camp and stuff. We went for a little jog today on the lakefront, and it, it's a baby, so we deal with different struggles, but we got the workout in, and yeah, definitely enjoying, being a new dad again, and going through all that stuff, and just spending time with the family.
And I guess because both of you and your wife are very active, do you just sort of, like you said, just incorporate the baby in the workouts, or how do you go about doing that? Because I know both of you guys like keeping active, but obviously someone has to watch the baby.
Yeah, absolutely. Before Knox was born, we'd go to, the gym together all the time, and lift and do our cardio, or we'd go for runs on the lakefront here in Stony Creek. So now again, we're both staying active. It's just a little bit more juggling. When we do, I'll coach the jiu-jitsu class. Claudia will hold Knox while I'm coaching, and then I'll hold Knox while she's drilling the jiu-jitsu. And so we just work it out like that. And we've got a good support system here with teammates, and my family's close by when we're in Huntsville and stuff, so we find a way to make it work.
And are you getting to enjoy summer a bit? I know you got the fight coming up, but this is the best time of the year, especially where you live. Sun's out, and lots of stuff to do outdoors.
Yeah, absolutely. We try and spend as much time outdoors as we can. And doing lots of stuff. Just there's always weddings and parties and different things to go to, and then just sticking to the diet and that stuff sometimes sucks, but still having a great summer.
Kyle, thanks for doing this. We're looking forward to the fight. It is UFC Fight Night coming here September 7th. If there's anyone you want to thank, and I know you have some, any sponsors, any social media you want to mention, I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll start with my sponsors. So we have Muskoka Renos, Sheath Underwear, GLC Construction, GBS Food Services, Shoeless Joe's here in Hamilton, Hamilton Air Systems, and then we got Moose Delaney's, and then obviously my fiance Claudia for all her help in the training camps, my coaches Alin and Adrian, my gyms, House Champions, Muskoka Martial Arts, Niagara Top Team, and all my training partners. Thanks a lot, guys. Everyone, make sure you tune in. You can check me out on Instagram at _monster UFC 705, and on X, I guess now, _monster, Facebook, Kyle the Monster Nelson. And keep up to date with obviously my training camp, some cool family stuff, and then lots of stuff about chickens and weird little farm stuff for you guys.